everyone.
Grand Rising.
I am so happy to see you all here in what is our current spiritual home. I won't call it our new spiritual home because we are on the move. We are in our transitional space, and we are so grateful to be so warmly welcomed by the San Clemente. If you were here last week, you were able to enjoy the Soul Journey experience that the Baha'i community does every couple of months. The next one, mark your calendar, but we'll remind you of just the same, will be June 8th. So we'll continue to meet with you here in this beautiful space every Sunday morning, and then occasionally, every couple of months, the Baha'i community, in collaboration with our music program, will do a soul journey experience with you. And I really encourage you to come and experience it for yourself, because it was deep and it was leaking a little bit on my eyes. It was really moving. We are doing an annual theme, a beautiful annual theme that continues to be in our Science of Mind magazine. If you're familiar with the Science of Mind magazine, it follows the themes that we do each month. And just a plug, even though we don't have a bookstore, we do have magazines for sale right in the lobby there. You can find it. It's kind of a self-serve situation. You pick up a magazine, leave the cost in the little box, and you'll still be able to enjoy this amazing publication. And the May's theme is raise your voice. And then I added with an open heart. And I'll explain a little bit as I move forward about why I felt like I needed to add that with an open heart. And today's talk is Confidence Unleashed, Self-Love Expressed as Self-Advocacy. Self-love expressed as self-advocacy. Now that's a mouthful, I know. I want to explore today the deeply spiritual practice of loving ourselves, and I know that if you're like me and you were brought up in a kind of cultural situation where maybe the people who were bringing you up were not that enamored with the idea of self-love, of thinking of yourself, because they might have thought about the extreme of that, which of course is arrogance, or thinking too much of ourselves. There's a great saying in one of the support groups that I belong to that says, I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. And that's not the kind of self-love that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the deep self-love where we come to a place of recognizing ourselves as spirit in form. When we can begin to see that self-love is not only a sacred act, but the gateway to spiritual confidence. And from this confidence emerges a courageous, authentic self-advocacy. When we love ourselves as divine expressions, we begin to stand up for ourselves. We begin to speak for ourselves. We begin to live from an alignment of truth. And as I was looking at this topic, as I have been doing all year, I'd like to see where it aligns with our declarations of principle. In the Science of Mind magazine, you'll find it in the, now these are dual month issues. So you have May here, June here. So in the beginning, in the May issue, where you just open it up and you'll see the declarations of principle. These declarations of principle were first published in the 1920s when someone asked our founder, Ernest Holmes, what exactly does Science of Mind stand for? So we made these beautiful declarations, and the one that really jumped out at me as I was looking at this topic was that we believe in an individualization of spirit in us, and that all people are individualizations of the one spirit. And I want to add to that, and there are no exceptions. about that for a minute. We are all expressions of God, and there are no exceptions to that. Now, if you have a dear one that you're not in agreement with, or you have held a grudge with, or held a grudge against you, that might be a little bit hard to swallow. But it reminds us that in this human experience that we have day to day, that there is something larger that is inhabited and it lives within us, and that lives within each and every emanation of spirit. Each and every human being, each and every life form is an expression of the divine. Now, as I look at this idea of confidence unleashed, I'm going to try to bring us through a couple of big ideas around it. One is that understanding self-love is simply spiritual recognition in ourselves first, so that we see with the eyes of love. The second point I want to talk about today is that spiritual confidence comes from trusting ourselves and the divine. And the third point is that self-advocacy grounded in self-love leads us to aligned action. And Ernest Holmes has this great quote that I'm going to share with you this morning. He writes, "Love is the self-givingness of the spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation." So when we look at this idea of self-love in terms of this philosophy, the science of mind philosophy, we're not talking about egoism or narcissism. We're acknowledging our divine birthright, our divine origin. Excuse me for 1 minute. We're realizing that at the heart of each one of us is spirit, and that it is expressing perfectly, absolutely perfectly. You may not recognize it because it doesn't look like you, but everywhere you look, it's God expressing itself in the most perfect and divine way. Yes. And when we begin to understand that, we begin to understand that God so loves the universe, so loves life, that it gives it all these amazing expressions. But they all come from that same divine spark of love. And so for us not to drop into this place of deep self-love is not honoring what God has so beautifully created. I love it when I am talking to my sister, and I talk to my sister a lot. We're very close. And once in a while, I'll be beating myself up about something, and she'll say that she'll interrupt me, and she'll say, "Don't talk about my sister." Wouldn't it be great if we're with a friend, right? And because you will, we all do it, right? We make mistakes, we stumble, we find places where we didn't perform the way we thought we should, and we start to beat ourselves up. Wouldn't it be great if we took it upon ourselves to just really reflect back to that person? Stop talking about my friend that way, right? We can help each other stay in accountability of recognizing the divine. It's just human nature. We want to recognize the divine everywhere out here. And sometimes the last place we go to see the divine is right here in ourselves. And so when we look at this idea of self-love and how it is expressed in us, it is the opportunity for us to really, when we recognize that we might be moving into self-criticism, shift into self-compassion. Treat yourself as if you were God in form, because you are. You are absolutely God expressing itself in a perfect way. So having self-compassion for yourself is having compassion for God, having compassion for God's expression. One of the ways that we can begin to really embody a deeper sense of self-love is to do things like mirror work. Now, mirror work, you may be familiar with it. There was an amazing woman who was found religious science when she was in her 40s, and her name was Louise Hay. Some of you might be familiar with Louise Hay and her affirmations. and was her expression. And she found herself with a cancer diagnosis, and she began to look for ways to apply this practice, this philosophy, and she did something that she called mirror work, and that was to look in the mirror and to say loving affirmations to herself. To say things like, "You're beautiful. I love you." And so that type of mirror work is no stranger to the veteran student of Centers for Spiritual Living. But if we think about mirror work, it's more than just parroting affirmations to ourselves. It's self-reflection. It's beginning to turn our view back on ourselves and to look at where we are with the situation. Self-reflection for me comes in really handy when I'm triggered, right? When things are happening and I'm getting a little upset and I'm beginning to do a little finger pointing. I mean, it's rare, but it's rare. But when I begin to look outside of myself for the cause of the condition that I'm experiencing, self-reflection gives me an opportunity to come back within myself to see what it is that wants to have some clarity, some healing, some revealing. And that doesn't mean that I don't have situations that come up where I was not the, I'll say, secondary cause of the situation. So I'm not suggesting that if you're, driving down the road and you're doing the speed limit and you're driving carefully and somebody rams into the back of your car, I'm not suggesting that you do some self-reflection to see where you were responsible for that. Kathy Ann Lewis, a great teacher in our movement, likes to say that everything we experience through 4 vehicles. We either create it, promote it, allow it, or we step in it. And when we step in it, it's an opportunity to go back into that cycle of looking at what we want to create, allow, and promote. So that we're always in this place of agency, even when things happen that seem to come out of left field or don't even know where, how this is happening to me. I've never said those words. You may have. But we all have those experiences, and so this practice of self-love creates a beautiful, healthy landscape within ourselves so that when we are experiencing life, when life is happening on life's terms, when things are not necessarily going our way, we can, or even if there's something that we're really passionate about, something we want to see changed in the world, self-love is the place to start. Because when we are grounded in self-love, when we are grounded in that place of knowing that it is all God, that there is divinity everywhere we look, especially in the mirror, we can ground ourselves in that healthy place. That's when we can act in alignment with the deeper truth. I was also thinking about this idea of, did I already talk about that? I think I did. This idea of spiritual confidence, right? Spiritual confidence. I think those are 2 words you put together regularly in your day-to-day speech. But when we look at this idea of spiritual confidence, it's about working with spiritual laws. When there are spiritual laws, just like there are physical laws. There's the law of gravity. If I drop this microphone, it'll fall to the ground. If I knock over one of these candles, something terrible could happen. Gravity takes over and things fall down. We have spiritual laws that we're working with as well. And when we acquaint ourselves with those spiritual laws, we begin to understand what is happening and how spirit is always expressing itself through life, then we can have a sense of spiritual confidence. Holmes wrote this, Ernest Holmes, "There is a power for good in the universe greater than you, and you can use it." And then I love the quote from Rumi that also expresses this idea of trusting universal law and knowing that you're part of it. He wrote, or said and was transcribed. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. You hear that quote a lot. It reminds us that there is God stuff moving through us all the time in everything we experience. And so spiritual confidence is not bravado or arrogance. It's the place where we know this highest truth about God and how it expresses in our lives and around us. And yet we have this, I have this human experience. I won't speak for you, but I have this human experience that sometimes I project. And that's when I want to bring back that mirror practice of self-reflection. I read recently something that Richard Rohr wrote that I want to share with you. He says, we project our anxiety elsewhere and misdiagnose the real problem, exchanging it for smaller and seemingly more manageable problems. Thinking we can control conditions, like make people do things and manage things and organize things. I don't know about you, but when I feel in control, that's often, for me, a sign that I'm needing to feel safe. Right? So he's talking, Richard Rohr is reminding us that that's the misdiagnosis of the real problem. And he goes on to say, and I love this line, the over-defended ego always sees, hates, and attacks in other people its own faults. I'm going to read that again, because that is a really big idea. The over-defended ego always sees, hates, and attacks in other people its own faults. Right. And so when we are in a defensive mode, it is my least favorite place to be, and I land there more often than I would like to admit. And it's often a place where I am just trying to not take responsibility for something, or I want it to be your fault, or I want you to handle it. And so we have this opportunity when we're doing this self-reflection to be able to pause, right? Look around us, recognize, do that self-reflection to recognize that we might not be loving of ourselves at the moment. When we are in this place of self-love, and I've shared this before, my mama used to tell me, we moved around a lot, and I was always struggling to make friends, and my mama would say to me, well, honey, if you want people to like you, you have to like yourself. And that was like a seed that she planted in me as a very young child, that in order for me to see a loving world, I had to be steeped in self-love first. I had to begin to allow that self-love to be the lens that I looked out in the world at, so that I could begin to see the world in alignment as opposed to through my triggers and the things that were scaring me through fear or projections. And so self-love gives us this opportunity to clear the channels for confidence, spiritual confidence to flow. And self-love allows us to stop playing small. To stop playing small. A lot of us do that. We diminish ourselves. We think we need to play small. We think we need to, not take up too much room, or not, avoid conflict, or avoid those difficult conversations. But when we are grounded in self-love, even difficult conversations have more grace. Because I'm not trying to prove anything to you. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm completely grounded in my own truth. We have a lot of people trying to convince each other of things in the world right now. And my guess is that the loudest voices that are complaining and projecting and just downright making a lot of noise, raising their voice, but maybe not with an open heart. And that's why I added that, because when we can open our heart and we can really ground ourselves in self-love, we can begin to step into that place of self-advocacy. And when we begin to see ourselves as love, and we begin to express through the means of self-love out into the world, well, that aligned truth of love can't help but be impacted with all our relationships and everything that we do. It's not just speaking up for yourself when you're grounded in self-love and you are doing the practice of self-advocacy. It's not just speaking up for yourself, it is speaking up for the divine. It is living from a truth of who you are and who you came to be, and it's honoring your needs, your path, and your soul's calling, which is bigger than any egoic need or idea that you can think of. And when we come to this place of spiritual confidence, it's an opportunity for us to really choose nurturing environments and nourishing our spirit and setting boundaries without guilt, learning to say no with grace. Anybody else need to learn how to do that? Somebody shared an idea with me one night, and instead of just saying, no, I'm not really ready for that, I had this whole big Megillah that I had to share with them. Right? Because I wasn't grounded in self-love, I was grounded in self-pity. I have too much to do. Right? And so self-love, being grounded in self-love and self-advocacy allow us to really set healthy boundaries for ourselves. And leaving situations even that are no longer supporting our spirit. Those are really important skill sets to use to step into that place of self-love. And so in daily practice, I invite you to maybe sit quietly and then try the Louise Hay method of speaking your affirmations out loud. Speak them into a mirror. Say loving things about yourself. Remember who you are. Remember who you are, because we forget all the time how amazing each one of us is. You could journal. That's another practice that you could do of journaling, and I would offer this prompt. Where am I not advocating for myself, and what spiritual truth must I embrace to do so? Where am I not advocating for myself, and what spiritual truth must I embrace to do so? Ernest Holmes, the last quote I'll share with you from Ernest Holmes, he wrote, "The spirit within me is God, and that spirit is perfect, whole, and complete." That spirit is, so if the spirit within each one of us is God and it's whole, perfect, and complete, what does that make you?
Whole, perfect, and complete.
Right. And if you have trouble with perfection or wholeness, just try completeness. Or if you have trouble with completeness, try wholeness. Use the words that will land within you so that you can remember this deep truth about your own divinity. Because self-love opens our heart, it gives us and empowers us with spiritual confidence, and it gives us the ability to advocate for ourselves, and eventually we may want to advocate for others. But not from a place of duality, but from a place of centeredness and oneness. You are not here to play small. You are here to be fully alive, fully divine, fully you. When I was bringing this all together, I was reminded of that beautiful, beautiful quote that is sometimes attributed to Mandela, but it's Marianne Williamson who wrote it, and I'm going to read the whole thing for you, and I want you to take it in. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine. We were born to make manifest the glory of the divine that is within us. It's not just in some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Yeah. Very, very powerful quote. We are not here to play small. We are here to be the divine in expression. And sometimes we just got to get out of the way. We got to do the practices that remind us that we are worthy of every ounce of love we have the capacity to give. And we can give all that love to ourselves. It's easy to give it to others. We are not in conflict, even if you love one color and I love the other color. If we seem to be on opposite ends of the continuum, the truth is that we are both divine expressing imperfection. So repeat after me. I am love.
I am love.
I am light.
I am light.
I am power.
I am power.
I am worthy of
I am worthy of
my divine inheritance.
my divine inheritance.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you. So I'll do an affirmative prayer. This is your opportunity to open your minds and hearts, to accept this prayer as your own, to take whatever wisdom is going to serve you this week. So I invite you to close your eyes as I speak this word on your behalf. And I speak it in the first person. I know with absolute confidence that God is good. I know without a shadow of a doubt, without an inkling of a doubt, that life is good. I trust that this beautiful, creative life force that created the stars and the flowers and the beauty, the ocean and the mountains, also created me. And as I see the beauty around me and the world, I know that it is a reflection of me. And so I reflect back this divine inheritance, which is mine. To be loved, to be light, to express all the sacred and divine perfection that is within me in every encounter I have. And if I forget, I know that Spirit will gently nudge me, remind me. I will remind myself that there is indeed a power for good in the universe, greater than me, and always available to me. For it lives within me and all around me. And so I draw on this power daily. I trust this highest truth, that God is love, that love creates, that love created me, and everything I touch and see and feel and hear and sense. And that this world we live in was meant to be a loving world. And so I do my part by loving myself and thereby loving all of creation. It is with an open heart that I raise my voice and speak my word, standing in truth. And with a grateful and surrendered heart, I simply let this go, for I know